Hey, what's happening, guys? You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. Got an interesting business story to share with you guys today. I think it'll stir up some interesting discussion. I think this is somewhat of a controversial issue. But before we get into that, I just wanted to take a minute to wish all of you a happy and healthy new year. 2020 has been a crazy year. I made a video the other day saying, sadly, I don't think 2021 is going to be any better. I actually think it's going to be worse in terms of lockdowns and government overreach and a lot of other things. I think a lot of the mistakes we made in 2020, and obviously I feel lockdowns and a lot of this stuff is mistakes, a lot of the mistakes we made in 2020, we're not going to see the effects and the results of until 2021. So I think things like businesses closing and unemployment and evictions and foreclosures are only going to get worse in 2021. I think it's going to be a pretty bad year, but that doesn't mean you have to have a bad year. Stay motivated, get in shape, get a hustle going, take care of your mental health, spend times with friends, family, and loved ones, and make the best of it. Just because overall society is probably going to be pretty shitty in 2021 doesn't mean you have to have a shitty 2021. So keep that in mind. Keep hustling, keep grinding, stay positive. But yeah, I wanted to wish all you guys a happy and healthy new year. I was a little bit of a dud in terms of churning out content and doing a lot of stuff for this channel in 2020. I'm gonna try to turn that around in 2021. I'm gonna try to get a good website up and going. I'm gonna try to make more content for you guys. So let me know what type of stuff you guys would like to see. Without further ado, let's get into this article. This one comes to us from the USA Today. Alaska Airlines becomes the first major airline to announce emotional support animal ban. So I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with emotional support animals and service animals and all this type of stuff. But I have dogs myself. I'm also a landlord, so I'm a little bit familiar with this issue. Excuse me, drinking my water there. I'm by no means an expert, so if anything I say you disagree with or is incorrect, feel free to correct me down in the comment section below. And let's start this off with a little poll like the video from earlier. So what should we say? We'll say if you think this is a good thing and the emotional support animal thing is kind of abused and used as a loophole, and you think emotional support animals shouldn't be a thing, give this video a thumbs up. If you think emotional support animals are a good thing, go ahead and give this video a thumbs down. But again, USA Today, Alaska Airlines becomes the first major airline to announce emotional support animal ban. So here's the thing. We have service animals. Now, a service animal, what most of you guys are probably most familiar with, a service animal is used by blind people. Service animals have a lot of other uses, right? Like people who have seizures or have epilepsy, service animals can be trained. I'm not really sure how that works. I don't know but they can tell a seizure is coming on. I think sometimes diabetics who might fall into a diabetic coma, people who have really severe diabetes, I think service animals can actually detect that somebody has low blood sugar. And, dogs and service animals are really pretty amazing. I think I was hearing something that they're training dogs to be able to sniff out COVID. So dogs are really, really have a heightened sense of, I don't know if you want to call it a heightened sense of smell or a heightened sense of just sensitivity, and are able to sense things that even we don't know about our own bodies. But regardless, service animals are highly trained animals. They have to go through intensive, schools and training to be good citizens and make sure they know how to behave around people and don't bite. They also have to be intensely trained for a very specific task. So, a service animal can guide a blind person. A service animal can sniff out an epileptic seizure coming on. Emotional support animals are something entirely different. Well, they do get a lot of the same protections under the law. For example, if you have an emotional support animal, I as a landlord can't not allow you to have a pet. I'm not allowed to charge you a pet deposit in most cases. In terms of airlines, this was kind of abused a lot. People could have an emotional support animal and that animal is able to fly with them, even if an airline doesn't allow dogs on a flight. They're also not allowed to charge you extra to fly with that dog. Hotels that don't allow dogs, people have to allow emotional support animals to stay in their hotels. And here's the catch. Emotional support animals go through no training. If you want to have an emotional support animal, all you have to do is get a note from a doctor that says that an emotional support animal would benefit you. Now, that's technically the proper way to go about it. In reality, you can bring your dog anywhere you want, and essentially because of HIPAA laws, people aren't allowed to ask you about it. So I think the only question somebody's allowed to ask is that an emotional support animal? And you can say yes or no, but they aren't allowed to ask what task that animal performs. They aren't allowed to ask what your disability or need for that animal is, and they're not allowed to ask for any documentation. So essentially, you can bring your dog anywhere you want, and nobody's allowed to question you or ask any questions, which means that really anybody can bring their dogs anywhere they want, period. And in recent years, and I think that's probably what caused Alaska Airlines to make this move, there have been some ridiculous stories where, like, somebody brought their emotional support python on a plane. I think somebody brought an emotional support ostrich on a plane. You're hearing about like emotional support donkeys and just all sorts of type of craziness. It's one thing if you got a lap dog that you can pet and that kind of calms you down, but like it's another thing when people start bringing Great Danes and horses and donkeys and whatever else on airlines. So this is kind of a hotly contested issue. A lot of people say, we should respect people's kind of emotional health, and if an emotional support animal helps them out, so be it. Who are we to stop that? At the same time, like, where do we draw the line? Like, maybe jerking off helps me calm down. Like, am I able to just, whip out my thing and start jerking it on a plane? Maybe smoking a cigarette calms me down. Maybe smoking weed calms me down. Maybe you could take this really far. Like, is everybody allowed to do whatever they want if it makes them feel good or soothes them? So it's kind of an interesting issue. I do know a lot of people who have service animals, like official, actual service animals that have gone through a lot of training and are trained to do a task. A lot of times these people don't like emotional support animals because it kind of gives them a bad name. I think like a seeing eye dog or a service animal can cost anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000, if not more. Sometimes these animals go through years of training. They're very well trained. They behave very well. And I think people who have service animals often feel that it reflects badly upon them when somebody else just orders a kit offline and they get a little emotional support animal jacket for their dog. Their dog's gone through no training. That person may or may not even need the dog. But they're using that animal to fly free, or to be able to have a dog in their apartment without a pet deposit, or to be able to take a dog in a hotel. And I've been on airplanes before where people have emotional support animals, and the animal's pissing on the seat or barking the whole time. There have been a few instances in recent years. I think one was a golden retriever, which are typically pretty nice dogs, but it bit some kid's face. The kid had to get like 27 stitches in his face. So the program's definitely been being abused. And HIPAA laws and things haven't changed in terms of the status of emotional support animals overall. So I don't believe, at least at this time, this is going to affect landlords or hotels or anything else. It seems that this was a change to the DOT laws, or the Department of Transportation laws, and that's why this is specifically having to do with airlines. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Go ahead and drop a comment down below. Let's get into the article. Alaska Airlines becomes the first major U.S. airline to announce an emotional support animal ban. Alaska Airlines will soon ban emotional support animals from flights, becoming the first major U.S. airline to do so after the Department of Transportation revised its regulations earlier this month about what constitutes a service animal. Beginning January 11th, Alaska will only allow service dogs, which it defined in a press release as dogs that are specially trained to perform tasks for the benefit of a qualified individual with a disability, including psychiatric service dogs. The airline said Tuesday in a press release, passengers with emotional support animals with reserved bookings prior to January 11th will still be allowed to fly, but no exceptions will be made after February 28th. The DOT announced December 2nd its revised Air Carrier Access Act would no longer classify emotional support animals as service animals, which are allowed to fly with passengers on commercial airlines under federal laws. Advocacy groups for Airlines for America, which represents major U.S. airlines, previously expressed support for the DOT's revisions, though Alaska is the first major airline to formally announce it will actually enact them. Alaska's new policy allows up to 2 service dogs per guest, and those guests will be required to fill out DOT forms available at the airline's website beginning January 11th to confirm that the service dog is trained and vaccinated and will behave appropriately during the journey. The changes are a departure from previous DOT guidance issued last year, which said that airlines could not restrict passengers from traveling with emotional support animals, nor could they ban specific breeds or species of support animals. Airlines are currently prohibited from refusing service dogs based on their breed, and that prohibition will continue under the new laws. Airlines have also questioned whether some passengers may be trying to pass off their pets as support animals, be they cats, rabbits, or birds, among others, in order to avoid paying fees associated. The regulatory change is welcome news as it will help us reduce disturbances on board while continuing to accommodate our guests traveling with qualified service animals, said Alaska Airlines Director of Customer Advocacy, Ray Prentice. The DOT sought public comment on the proposed policy earlier this year and got more than 15,000 comments. Last year, more than 80 veterans and disability groups endorsed banning untrained emotional support animals in airline cabins. And when DOT proposed the rule change in January, disability advocates and airline personnel alike were in favor. This is a wonderful step in the right direction for people like myself who are dependent on and reliant on legitimate service animals, said Albert Rizzi, founder of My Blind Spot, an advocacy group for people with disabilities. At the time, he said some people want to have the benefits of having a disability without actually losing the use of their limbs or senses, just so they can take their pet with them. Now, I don't think it's fair to say people who, some people have invisible disabilities. Not every disability means you're missing an arm or a leg or your sight. However, that said, this program was most definitely abused. Flight attendants had pushed to rein in support animals as they were too in favor of the rule. The days of Noah Ark in the air are hopefully coming to an end, said Sarah Nelson, president of the Association of Flight Attendants. She said some of her union's members were hurt by untrained pets. And it looks like the article wraps up there. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this. Do you think emotional support animals are a good thing and should be allowed? Do you think they're just kind of a way to kind of bend the rules and it was just kind of taken advantage of too much? Let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button below, and we'll catch you guys on the next video later on. Happy New Year, guys.